Hey, welcome to Heroes Out. I'm Paul,
And I am Patrick.
and today we're going to be talking about franchises and kind of how they can change from their original stories, and also kind of how they can stifle other kind of brands and everything as they move forward in their dominance of our silver screen.
Oh, they're great for the money, Paul. They are great for the money. Everybody wants a franchise. That's where the big bucks really are. But are they always really that good an idea? Not so sure.
No, like that's the thing. So, yeah, we're going to be talking about many of the franchises that we all love. Let us put it forth into the ether of the internet that we are fans of franchises. They're not
Yeah.
like there's plenty of reasons to have franchises. There's plenty of franchises out there that we have deeply in our hearts, kind of thing. But there's franchise saturation and how they can also ruin from their original stories of kind of things of how everything shouldn't be a franchise and how they can overly kind of destroy their creativity kind of roots, kind of thing. So um we should probably go through just some obviously some terminology of like there's sequels and stuff like that out there that aren't franchises.
Yeah. A lot of people are like, oh, franchise. What's your problem with franchises? We love the MCU, like you said. Two movies isn't a franchise. Second movie is just a sequel. If you planned on making three movies, that's a trilogy. When you're talking about franchises in the way that we're talking about franchises, it is when they try and make more and more properties, and that could be TVs, books, all the rest, that kind of stuff. Make your TV shows from your movies. That's where it can start getting franchisey. Paul, do you want to pick a good example from right now, considering I saw Ghostbusters on Tuesday night, or Monday night, or whatever that was? Because Ghostbusters, if you've never met me before, hello, my name's Patrick, and I love Ghostbusters, the original movie. And I didn't hate Ghostbusters Afterlife. And yes, I agree that Ghostbusters 2016 was a mess, but didn't get hate for all the right reasons. Got hate for all the wrong reasons, and sometimes for the right reasons. Ghostbusters 2 wasn't great. And in very short order, Ghostbusters Frozen Empire was, eh, yeah.
Oh, Patrick is frozen. Which is while Patrick is which is unfreezing, I
We're going
guess.
to make this a franchise. Let's keep ghostbusting.
Oh, sadly, which is you froze there.
Oh,
Um, sadly for a small bit there. Which is sorry about that. Which you're talking about Ghostbusters and how Frozen Empire wasn't that great of a movie. After the follow up of Afterlife, which is a pity because Afterlife was very good. But yeah, I can.
yeah.
The point I guess that you were trying to make there is that now that there's multiple kind of yes, Ghostbusters froze Patrick. It's what is it? Universal, Paramount. I can't remember who did Ghostbusters, but yeah,
Sony.
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 Oh,
Yeah,
that
isn't it?
is.
Yeah, I think it is. Sorry,
Um,
I'm going to get myself some backup internet here just in case. So you keep going for a second.
no worries. And we should, yeah. So the idea is that Ghostbusters come out. It used to be just a sequel movie, kind of. Ghostbusters 2, obviously with the original cast. Then they moved into like the Ghostbusters animated series, which was what they were trying to franchise into, which we see a lot of. Like John Wick has now been turned into kind of a franchise in the sense that TV shows or spin offs are going to kind of come along and stuff, which I think dilutes the original kind of like world in the sense that we got enough of the world. There's enough interesting kind of little tidbits that like make that a really cool world, but adding more and more insight into that world through franchise expansion creates a little bit of a like it's getting to see a little bit too much, and you kind of spoil the mystery of like everybody is an assassin in this world, right? That's how that works. Even the cops,
Everybody.
like everybody must be
Yeah.
an assassin kind of thing. But yeah, like the worry about franchises is that they do a little bit of damage. Like there's franchises built for the purpose of franchising. Transformers, for example, is a franchisable kind of market. It's a franchise media. Already with the amount of cartoons that have been made and stuff like that, but into the movies franchise as well, it's money in the bank essentially. We're all going to see giant robots that fight. I don't think their last one did too well, but that's kind of the dying end of a franchise, which happens a lot.
Make enough bad movies, eventually people will stop seeing them.
That's the thing. So like, elements of like media, like books and stuff like that, definitely lends themselves towards essentially the wider kind of
Yeah.
franchisable items.
Paul, can I just shout to the chat and say, get in there with what you think is a good reason for something to be a franchise? Because as far as I'm concerned, Paul, and we've talked about this before, it makes sense if you've got like book series and things like that. So, uh, to put it bluntly, like the MCU and DC Universe and Star Wars and Star Trek, they are things that are massive. They've got big universes already built elsewhere. And when it comes to something like Star Wars, it was in a galaxy far, far away. That's a whole galaxy that you can tell stories in, quite literally a universe. Um, so those things lend themselves to franchises naturally.
Yeah, like Star Wars is a good example because we had the original trilogy, then it turned into a it got expanded through comics and through book series. We also got two Christmas special movies of the Ewoks, kind of
Hey,
things. And then obviously, the studios wanted more, so obviously they returned and made the prequels, and then TV shows and cartoons and Clone Wars and everything like that, kind of thing. But the thing is that the original series got kind of piled on. So like
yeah,
the original trilogy is I guess still kept within the hearts of essentially the original Star Wars people, but the franchise overall has been diluted by essentially just overly kind of processing of this brand now, of which is Star Wars. That's the problem with franchises, though. They kind of dilute their originality, and then dilute, and because they're taking over so much space. Because I think, like in Marvel, Doctor Strange, Multitude of Madness, as an interesting kind of thing within the franchise, like booked out entirely three cinemas. Like they did, like every screen in three cinemas was booked out to watch a Marvel film, and as a small independent or medium sized movie kind of thing, it's very hard to kind of compete with that power that a franchise
yeah,
can kind of bring forward. Stargate is just fantastic. Yeah,
yeah. And Scooby Doo is a franchise now. Yeah,
yeah,
I would come down on the side of the Scoob and say once you've had enough entries and side projects, then you're a franchise. It's a franchisable thing. That mystery wagon, and
yeah.
all its inhabitants.
Like yeah, like that's the thing. It's hard. It's difficult to not build a franchise nowadays because it's the only way that like you can continue to make stuff from that property is essentially the
Yeah,
definition. The problem with it though is that it stifles originality within its own property and also outside it. So like
yeah. And
Star okay,
go for it.
I
No,
was
no,
going
go
to
for
say
it.
Star Trek the original series was great. Everybody, it was a fantastic kind of thing. Then we had Next Generation, Deep
Which was
Space
great.
Nine, Voyager kind of
Which was
thing.
great. Which was
But
great.
then we had Discovery,
Not so great,
which is
in my
because
opinion.
yeah, and because they haven't because it was needed. They were just like we have to. They also had Enterprise, but because another entry in the story was needed, they made Discovery, and Discovery was all right. It was an interesting kind of take on some of the stuff, but like their whole the only way that they could go that was different from all the other ones was essentially to make up technology that broke the rules of the franchise, which you kind of can get away with in certain respects, but then there's others that can't. Completely building a new form of like interstellar travel that has not been established in some way other than like, yeah, it's spore drive, um and it's instantaneous and stuff. It's like way better than warp, which like, we'll be at the planet in 5 hours, kind of thing. And it's just like, no, we'll just be there, and weaponizing it and everything. It breaks the rules of the franchise, and then a lot of fans kind of break against it. So it stifles this
Yeah,
creativity
I'm
within
one
the
of them.
yeah, like
I'm one of them.
yeah, but it stifles that creativity. It means that it set up a bunch of rules. One of the most famous Gene Roddenberry rules is the fact is that like you can't none of the crew can be bad unless they're under the influence of an alien or extra dimensional or virus kind of thing. And it's just like that rule never gets broken because it's now a franchise rule. kind of thing. And it's like, but you can't have like an evil, like you can't just have like, oh yeah, like the only other
Evil twin.
rule, that's the double ganger universe as well,
Yeah.
the evil empire, and like, kind of thing. But that's the thing. Um, Franchises essentially stifle their own creativity, and also because they become so big and branded and stuff like that, that they become they stifle other creativity. The kind of thing. They stifle the other originality that is out there.
And it's by virtue of whether or not it's a good idea for it to be a franchise. Obviously, if you let your quality drop, you're ruining everything anyway. That's just it. That a side product of pumping out bad things is bad things will happen. You're going to devalue everything just by being bad. But some things are set up that they can be. Let's take a good example, Paul. James Bond or Indiana Jones. That's a central character with a set a set of parameters, let's call it, for lack of a better word, that you can go on multiple adventures with. Indiana Jones can go and check out some, he might raid a lost ark. He might tickle with a Temple of Doom. He might dial up Destiny and whatever you want to make up for kingdoms and crystal skulls. But you've got a character and a genre, the adventure genre, and you've got, hats and whips and guns and a few things, but you can make an Indiana Jones chapter. You can make a new story, bring some of the same characters along. That works well for a franchise. Bond, brilliant example. Make good Bond movies, good Bond franchise. Make bad Bond movies, bad Bond franchise. It's pretty straightforward. Whereas if you take something that should not be turned into a franchise and push it, and this is like to your point, you end up pushing yourself creatively down dead ends by messing up, the rules of something that was set up. But some movies should really just be one-offs, and they should never. It's not even just, oh, well, what about having a sequel? And I'll say something controversial here. One of my favorite films of all time, two of my favorite films of all time, Alien and Aliens. This is the perfect example for me of watch out what you're doing. And it's not because, oh, you made things worse. I happen to like Alien 3. And to all the haters out there, Paul, we've talked about it in the channel before. I'll defend Alien 3 all day long. Both versions, everybody's imagined version, what was released, what was released on VHS, etc. However, Alien, brilliant sequel, Aliens. At that point, you can try for your trilogy, and they did, and I think they pulled it off. But the reason it shouldn't be a franchise is you'd set up enough and you'd done it so well that it was going to be a law of diminishing returns from there on out. And I hate to say it, history has proven me to be correct in that assumption. I don't know about is this a good or a bad time for me to bring up another example, Paul? Because I'd love your
No,
take on the alien thing first.
no, the alien thing is right, because originally it was set up as a horror survival kind of in space kind of
Haunted
genre.
house in space.
Yeah, and then they pivoted to kind of more actiony kind of thing, just to kind of bring the people back. Fantastic, an amazing way of essentially breaking their original genre, bringing in a new story, and making everything fresh. It's a great way of doing it. The third installment was trying to bring it back to the original roots, which is more kind of like survival horror, like haunted house kind of aspect, but also kind of expand on the world of like, a little bit what's going on in the universe kind of thing, you know. But the fact that like after that, they then went back to stupid action with like Resurrection, and then after that, they were just like, we're going to go back to the original. We're going to go back. We're going to try and make this original. Go back to Prometheus. Like, you end up stifling what is originality. The two films that are really, really good are the ones that kind of break each other's kind of, because there's no rules set up for this
Yeah.
franchise. Is essentially that, and I guess that's also a little bit of a problem. Because they've already broken the genre, they break the rules. When you kind of come back to kind of recapture that, you're starting kind of a trend of kind of going, well, we don't really know what we're going to do with this, and then it ends up that the franchise is just flip flopping between what it should be, and eventually it just becomes some arbitrary kind of monster movie thing, and the whole series is essentially, the whole franchise is essentially diminished. Um, the like I see that AVP is in it. My thing with AVP is that, or Predator, is probably my bigger one. The Predator films never built towards a franchise. The original Predators, they built Predator 1 and Predator 2, and then they've been lumped in with essentially a merging of a franchise and a film and a sequel. So the AVP and AVP 2 are essentially just kind of like have merged the franchises, which then allowed us to have Predators, the Predator, and Prey. And
Yeah.
like Prey is the only one in that list that has broken the rules and brought us back to the original two. But it's
Yeah.
so difficult to do that. Like, and
It
the other thing is
is so rare to do that too.
yeah, and the thing with Prey is that it was mostly just released on streaming. So it means it shows how much evidence that people actually supported the originality of the idea, bringing it back to survival horror based, kind of thing. Um,
Well, I've got two questions for you and everybody out there at home, and they're consecutive questions. How good would a new Terminator movie have to be to get you back to the point where you're thinking Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 when you think Terminator? Because that, like, Terminator is at that prey point. It needs it needs something so good that you're willing to overlook its, the Star Trek 5, The Search for More Cash, Star Trek 19, The Search for More Cash, whatever way you want to put it. The idea that, you know, AVP, all these things, they exist. I'm not here to say people shouldn't make stuff. If you make it and you do well and it's made well, make it with love. I love you for it. That's all good. I think what we're kind of saying is that there are times when it's a good idea and times when it's a very, very risky and probably a bad idea. My second question is, so how good would a Terminator movie have to be to get you back to where we were after Judgment Day? And how much do you not want anybody to ever make a Back to the Future 4?
oh, I I don't want another Back to the Future for as much as I would love to see Michael J. Fox and Christopher Robert like back on kind of the screen again. I've enjoyed their cameos in other films. I've
Yeah,
enjoyed in a million ways to die in the West or kind of thing, and the Seth
beautiful,
MacFarlane. Is a great thing. It's
beautiful.
nostalgic and everything like that. Funny as hell kind of thing. Never do I want to see a fourth film. I don't care. I just want to keep the originals. Terminator, on the other hand, it's so hard to bring it back to its original roots so much as it has now rules set up within the franchise. One of them being that it ruins its biggest twist in the trailer. It seems I don't know. Do they have a Bible where it's just like when you're making a trailer, make sure that the twist is in there, kind of thing. Like,
Brian just said we riot if there's a Back to the Future 4. Well, and that's exactly my point. Back to the Future worked really well as a standalone movie, if you wanted it to. And they did well to make one of the all-time great trilogies. But you can not say, oh, what's primed for franchisedom? Many more time travel Back to the Future movies. Because you can do time travel stories all day long, but not if you're going to call them Back to the Future or use mechanisms and steal things from Back to the Future, because you are going to diminish the original brand. It's what the Matrix did very heavily and very heartily to the Matrix. I think today, and this is if we could find an alternate timeline and maybe take COVID out of it while we're at it, but if there was an alternate timeline where we had the Matrix and no follow-up movies at all, I think you'd find people talking about The Matrix today as one of the great films of all time.
yeah,
But it has been so devalued, people find it hard to actually say that without going, well, yeah, but then, whatever. And I'm not even just talking about the last abomination that they threw out, which really was The Matrix next level cash grab, but even the other two misguided sequels to make it the original trilogy. I, I challenge anybody out there when you're talking to somebody, say The Matrix is the greatest movie of all time and see if they can resist the urge of mentioning what
that
happened next.
it's so hard. Like that's my problem with it is that the second that you mention the Matrix, it's definitely the two other ones have to be mentioned after that. They're just like, no, I didn't like the second one, and or like, but it wasn't as bad as the third one.
They took away from the
Yeah,
story. They took away from the film. They took away from everything there was.
if they just did the Matrix and the Animatrix, I would have been perfectly happy. I would have been this. This. I want to live here. That's fine. We're never going back here. Don't open the closet, kind of thing of the
Yep.
Matrix kind of like room, anything like that. But yeah, I definitely agree that the fact is like it's getting like what's a franchise, and like Terminator and also Back to the Future are getting great love
That's
the thing.
great. Checking that
Um,
out.
but yeah, no, the I would say, just for people's kind of things, animated series kind of based on the franchise. So based on the movie kind of series. So Back to the Future had an animated movie. I wouldn't include that as as a major franchise kind of thing, because the idea is that it's just they want to kind of they do want to make toys and stuff like that, so that they way that they do that is making an animation and um selling it to kind of kids kind of channels and stuff like that, so people can get interested in it. Also, just extending kind of the story into new kind of wacky places, because I know that that was mostly about the family, rather than which was Jules and Vern, rather than kind of Marty McFly as much. Lord of the Rings, myself, and I don't know about you, I would not have called it a franchise until the Rings of Power series came out.
Yeah,
I would have,
it's still just a trilogy to me, because I haven't really engaged with the idea, but I think they have franchised it now. I think technically you're right.
yeah, like even with the Hobbit series of movies, I wouldn't have called it a franchise. I would have just called them they're two separate trilogies within the same world,
Yeah,
kind of thing. It wasn't until that they started making or TV shows, and also started to kind of spread their wings a little bit more of kind of going, we're going to do the Rings of Power, and we're going to do the Next Age, and we're going to do the Silmarillion and stuff like that.
yeah.
That's when I was just like, now you're franchising it, because you had two distinct stories to tell. You told them, and now you're like, what else is in here that we can definitely start making more stuff of, kind of
Can I
thing.
be that guy for a moment though? Like when you say it's two trilogies, my back of my head just goes, shout, it should have been a trilogy and a movie. A trilogy and a movie. The Hobbit should have been a movie.
I would argue
One,
that it needs to be two movies, but that's as
two,
far as
two,
I
a
would go.
part one and part, yeah, that's as far as I would allow it to be pushed without going, grr, arg. Yeah. Ugh. But I think you're right. If like the TV show now does, it leads it into the we're going to keep making properties out of this. And Silmarillion's not far off into our future, I'd imagine, when they start going back and scraping for what they can. Um, Paul, can I before the break, can I hit us with one?
Yeah, go for it.
Because I've got an emotional plea about this. Because when I was younger, I saw it in VHS. My cousin's house. It was like I've told this story before. It was one of the only VHS cassettes I'd seen in somebody's house with an actual like real cover, like they'd bought it, and it was there's the proper picture from the like video store as opposed to just a blank cover, and that's First Blood, or as a lot of people call it, Rambo. But to me, it's First Blood, and to me, it's a great movie, and I have no recognition of the Rambo franchise when I watch or when I talk or when I think about First Blood. The amount of times I've been talking to people and they're like, "Oh, what's the best Rambo movie?" I'm like, "You mean two, three, four, five, whatever?" They're like, "Oh no, yeah, but like obviously the first one." I'm like, "No, no, no. Rambo movies started at Rambo 2. First Blood was not a Rambo movie. First Blood was a story of a veteran with PTSD not being welcomed or accepted at home. It was an important story to tell. It was told in a very interesting way, I grant you. And that ending scene where, he's strapped up with massive guns and shooting loads of things, that's the bit that people really took for the rest of the franchise. And that's not the important part, because when he was shooting all those things up, I think most people remember there was a pretty impassioned and important speech he made while crying after that that explains the shooting up. The rest of the franchise explained the shooting up by, well, I think Hot Shots did it best. Hot Shots
Yeah,
Part 2 described Rambo as people saw Rambo. It was just a massive violent joke. So there's something, there is a film that I think has been done more damage by the idea of being a franchise than maybe any other, except one. And I'm not going to mention that one till after the break, so people have to come back and play now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. You can't make a kind of anti-war movie soldier kind of in trouble kind of thing when you make two or three kind of action films of just, essentially glorifying that kind of violence. And then it'll be really hard if like Rambo 5 was just like, Rambo in an institution getting therapy and stuff like that and people looking after him, and it's just like it'll be so hard to pivot to that. But Rambo 2 Second Blood, or not even calling it Second Blood, but Rambo, like kind of
Part
like
two.
yeah,
Yeah.
kind of thing. Having him essentially go through his trauma and stuff like that would have been able to be done, but not after a bunch of action films.
No, no. I think, and I see Rocky just got called out there. Yeah, First Blood is it's a massively underrated movie. I think people misunderstand it because they have all the other exploding arrow fest helicopter movies, which don't get me wrong, brilliant action movies, just nothing to do with First Blood. But is Rocky a franchise? Absolutely, Rocky's a franchise. You can't have six movies and then three more
The
in the
Apollos,
Creed.
yeah, the Creed ones.
Yeah. Is it two or three in the Creed thing?
It's three in the
Three?
Creed right now.
Three. Jeez. Yeah, so you can't get up to nearly nine movies without being a franchise.
Yep. Well, we'll go through some of the chats when we come back from our ad, which goes and then we'll go on with more franchises and some of the.
And you have to come back because I am going to tell you the one single worst version of creating a franchise that has ever happened. And it ruined a brilliant movie, and you'll never guess what it is.
All right, back in a couple of seconds.
You obviously are like two people talking about movies, or you wouldn't even be seeing this ad. Well, don't tell anyone. But Hear Us Out isn't the only choice. You should check out our friends over at It Takes Two podcast. It's a podcast where two people take two films with the same plot or premise, watch and discuss them. Films like Gremlins and Critters, or The Truman Show on EdTV. Lisa and Nick don't stop there though. They get creative and compare some unexpected movies. Some that you don't see the connection until you realise that they can be described in the same way. They launch new episodes every second Tuesday, or Monday if you're in New Zealand. Find them on your favourite podcast service, or check the link in our description down below. That's It Takes Two podcast. Tell them Hear Us Out sent you.
Hey, welcome back. So yeah, it's that was It Takes Two, which right now two of the members of It Takes Two, but which two are in the chat right now? Saying hello to them. They are friends of the show. Check them out where you can ever get your podcasts all over the internet, Spotify, iTunes.
Well, then, since we have like the greatest of all the podcasters on with us right now, I'm going to throw it out there and see how they feel about the following statement. Highlander has been done more dirty by being turned into a franchise than any other movie. And I maintain this simply because if you look at the poster, the tagline was there can be only one. It was a film that happened. The whole story and plot was predicated on the idea of crescendo. We're building up to the idea that there will be one.
Yeah.
That is it. And there will be no more. One shall be the number of the counting, and the counting shall be one. And what did they go and do? Well, first off, they made one of the worst sequels, followed by some of the more worse sequels. Then it got slightly bad. It's just bad. If you watched anything past Highlander 1, you'll know Highlander has been done seriously dirty by the idea of not just sequels, but the idea that they wanted to make it a franchise. And they started messing, like you say, Paul, started messing with their own rules, started taking interpretation of the rules to an extent. And the TV show, TV show wasn't a problem. TV show was fine. What happened before there was only one? We can have a nice big journey. You can go back in the past and not mess anything up. It's not a problem. So anybody else out there think Highlander is the pick for the film that has been most done wrong by the idea of franchise hopes and dreams?
Yeah, it's always an interesting kind of thing because what makes studios want to choose certain films for franchising? Do they watch them and they're just like, I can turn this into a money making machine, kind of thing, or is it kind of like, that's so popular, we should just make more movies of it. It's always money based, kind
Oh
of thing.
yeah.
Obviously, like, they're trying to build some kind of brand within the franchise and kind of get it out there. But like, is it like just what's the magic? What's the like? Obviously, because like Hunger Games and Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter, they're all big franchises and stuff like that. Transformers, Star Trek, Star Wars. Obviously, they lend themselves quite well. The crew or the single hero or the group or something like that, so they can be plopped into different
Adventures.
adventures. Yeah, kind of thing. But like, what makes like how do you make Highlander, First Blood, like Alien and stuff like that into a franchise kind of thing by like do you look at it and you're just like I can ruin this like kind of thing. Is that how people go towards it? I can ruin this
Is that
for
what
money.
is it like? Hold my beer, or is it one of those moments where like this is practically unruinable? This is a brilliant movie. No one will ever be able to tarnish this. And along comes an exec and says, "Hmm, hold my beer. I can ruin this."
Like is that the case kind of thing? Because like there's right now in plenty of because there's things that we want to protect as franchise or like as single kind of like movie things which are steadily because let's face it, Patrick, we failed to protect Ghostbusters to
Yes,
be
we did.
turned into a franchise, but
We
which
did.
is I think something close to your heart right now, which I'm really hoping they don't turn into an overall franchise, is Beetlejuice 2. Beetlejuice itself. We understand that Beetlejuice does have an animated series, which could that's fine. They wanted to bring they someone looked at it and went, we can make this kid friendly, but also kid friendly in the '90s way, kind of thing, which is not really friendly now. But yeah, Beetlejuice. I'm really worried that this is going to be turned into a franchise. I feel that there's going to be more spin-offs, kind of thing, or at least more movies that are going to be coming down the road with Beetlejuice, which I'm really worried about because Beetlejuice is such a good franchise, or like I keep going, it's such a good franchise, but it's
You
not.
know, the, I think Beetlejuice is one of those things. Originally, do you remember all the talk after Beetlejuice? There's been a sequel in the works for 30 years, but it was supposed to be Beetlejuice in Hawaii, was the talk for the longest time that was the title. And I think either that was just put out there to put people off the idea that they wanted a sequel, or it was serious. But either way, now that they are doing a sequel, I'm like, I don't know, but okay, whatever, If it's good, great. But the fact that they called it Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, I'm thinking, okay, are you hinting that you're already thinking a trilogy? Because how many times do you say Beetlejuice to get him to appear?
Oh,
See what I mean? Yeah.
clever.
I hat is tipped. Oh,
Yeah.
it's tipped to 45 and more degrees. Such a hat tip. But yeah, I'm thinking they may already be in production with a third one or have it written. And if this makes cash straight into production, it will go. And it's going to be called Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Come on. Come on. You know you want me. Come on, Paul.
Uh,
What does a guy such as myself need to do to get a sequel around here? It's probably happening. Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice.
like,
The third
yeah,
one.
it's okay. Kudos to if that is the idea that they're just like, yeah, we can have three Beetlejuices because that's how many times you have to say his name to arrive. Clever marketing, but I don't want another one. I don't want this one, but
No, I don't see the need for it. It could be great, Paul.
it,
Who knows?
it could be. But the other thing is, which I'm really glad for, because like the new Villeneuve has come out several times about this, is Dune. It is really popular right now. Um, Dune Part Two has really exploded. Spielberg has said it's one of the greatest sci-fi's he's ever said or seen, which is it is riding coattails. Dune the Messiah, which is the next book and also the next movie, which is will complete the Paul's story in the like Paul's trilogy story, I guess would be the best thing. Um,
Yeah.
Delnu has said that he will not make any other ones. He said it is impossible to make the other books in any way like or in any way movable, like movie, like or transforming them over to movies.
And I will add the last words that he said silently, because he said, "Yeah, it'd be impossible to make the other books," and then he whispered to himself, "Without making an absolute mockery of what I have already done here."
Yeah,
Because
probably.
that's really part of what he means is you can make that stuff if you're crazy enough to try, but you're probably going to get it wrong and crap all over what is 2 out of 3 films into what's likely to be a great legacy for him.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh definitely. Because like I've watched the straight to TV movies, which is which also has which is Michael, not Michael Fassbender. It has oh
Deep
my,
down, I know the answer, but I cannot remember.
it's the guy who plays Xavier in the new in the X Men First Class and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
No, he's Scottish and he was in Wanted.
Yep. Which is but yeah, so
Okay.
it's gonna come back to me in a couple of minutes. But yeah,
Yeah.
so or
McAvoy,
this
James McAvoy.
James McAvoy.
My bad.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's he's in the Children of Dune. But yeah, no, he's read like Danu has read the books and stuff like that, and he definitely understands that like after Children of Dune and further on, becomes essentially intangible to try bring forward as a movie. Or a movie franchise. So he's definitely kind of like, let's just leave it at these complete the Paul Atreides story. They're very good, kind of thing. Um, but like I'm also just like I don't want to see spin-offs. I don't want to see like I don't want to see like Fremen, the Fremen, like TV show about the Fremen or like
Not even an Ewoks Fremen Christmas special, Paul.
no, no, no. I don't want to
Oh,
see.
but
I don't want to see.
nub.
I don't want to see
Adorable.
Grandfather Worm or any like Grandmother Storm or anything like that kind of like
Mm.
series at all. It's because that essentially, as you say, it will take away from the original trilogy. It will like remove what makes this kind of unique and creative and kind of its story and plot and everything like that. Like you say, the First Blood removes like it removes its originality, it removes the original point of the story and everything as you pile on crap essentially. Kind of thing. So there too. I'd also like to hide like the Three Body Problem is a trilogy. In the book series, it's currently really popular
Okay.
on Netflix. It's also so we can put it into SEO.
Nice.
But I don't want them to continue too far along the NCI Arrakis. That is amazing.
CIS Arrakis.
Yeah,
I just saw that.
that's a
Nice.
great one. Which goes, would it be done by the Harkonnens or the Atreides or the Fremen? I wonder. Anyway,
I don't know, but I'm already picking out a Who track for the opening.
would it just be the Paul's dream, like woman, like the lady part kind of thing? Just them screaming. Sorry.
Yeah.
Original point. Oh my god.
I can't remember what you were saying either now because I got so far into doing different NCIS Arrakises and
Yeah, thanks,
yeah.
Nick, for
Cheers, Nick.
really pulling us off that one.
Also, thanks, Lisa. I got it because I'm in a 30-second delay. I got it, but if I hadn't, you got James McAvoy in the chat. Thanks, that would have stopped heads exploding on the side. So everybody in chat, always thank you for helping us out on our mental blocks. Paul,
Yeah.
did I vamp enough for you to remember?
No, you didn't. We'll just continue on another trend, I guess, like that. Yeah. So there's these things that kind of just lend themselves to originality. We don't want to change them or anything like that. We don't
Oh,
want
the
to
three
pile them
body
on.
problem. They shouldn't go too much further down that route. Is where
Three
you
body
were.
problem. Yes, thank you so much. God. The three body problem. It's a trilogy book or series, and I don't want them to go too far into it because it gets real weird, and which is it's amazing that the first series has been made into a thing. I know that Netflix are going to see it and just be like, we're definitely making more of this because it's so popular, kind of thing. But that worries me in the sense that like though they might go through the original trilogy of books, build series around that and stuff like that, which is fine. But the problem is that they'll not stop there. They'll try to make a spin-off story a little bit more, which is just a problem that I have with kind of any new property. I'm just like, "Ugh, don't go too far
And
along this trend."
as Brian will tell you this, long time viewer, long time listener to my bullshit. Um, I'm the guy that defends sequels. Like I am Mr. Defending sequels. Whenever he goes, "Oh, sequels are shit," I'm like, there's no justifiable reason to say that. And then I go into my big long speech about if it's made with love, blah blah blah. But it's different when it comes to the franchise question. If you're not just trying to make an extra property, but you're trying to make extra property, you're trying to stretch your property everywhere. You're trying to land grab all around you by, like you say, your worry with three body problem is a good example of where that could go. Let's just keep covering ground here. Let's keep making more. Let's keep getting paid. And Paul, I'm gonna slightly derail us by saying there's one movie that I like very, very much and means
I'll,
quite a bit to me.
I'll line that up for you.
And honestly, there shouldn't the Crow breaks my rule because could you do more Crow movies with the let's say the setup? Yeah, you could. Of course, you can always do more. Absolutely. But there's a movie that was made did well with what it was. If you wanted to make more Crow movies, and instead of having somebody, be a musician that then turns into, gothic vengeance, or goth vengeance, depending on how you want to see the makeup, uh, your next movie has to not be that. But that's the exact opposite of what people took from the Crow movie and thought that's what we're going to do more of. And this now what's being called a reboot. I'm sure somebody out there is calling it a reimagining. I can already see, hey, you're trying to take the story again and do the story again. It's a very personal choice for me. But The Crow it's on that list with First Blood and Highlander and Matrix and Back to the Future of films that I know I could always have said, hey, I love these films and these films are great. Even like I said, Jaws is brilliant. And thanks to the fact that they franchised Jaws, I still get the same look from everybody on all of these movies, except for Back to the Future, because it stopped where it needed to. It stopped at a trilogy. It told its entire story. They had a plan, they executed on it. I don't know if I'm sure The Crow's not everybody's cup of tea. And technically, I'm breaking no rules because it does fit into something that you could be able to make multiple entries of.
Mm-hmm.
So, can you explain to me why I'm right or I'm wrong in that one? Because that's one for me, Paul, that it just feels wrong. So is that just me being having bias because I like it, or is there something I'm missing there?
So, which is, I would say that, because we talked about essentially nostalgia squeezing,
Mm,
where they're trying to squeeze essentially as much nostalgia out of essentially certain generations, excuse me, as they possibly can. This is one of them. This is one of the because this is a cult classic. The Crow is a cult classic. It also does have two other straight to DVD or straight to VHS movies, kind of thing, which were awful and fly so below under the
terrible.
ground that because they follow the same. I think so. There's two things with the Crow. I think that lends itself to the possibility of being made into a franchise. First one is nostalgia squeezing. It's a cult classic. It's the why the Craft got its second one as well because it was a cult classic and they were trying to do more nostalgia squeezing. The other reason why the Crow can also lend itself to a franchise is because you can do it of two ways. You can do the Crow's power being moved on to person, or you can do one new Crow who just becomes essentially a vigilante who avenges essentially people who were killed in a very people who were in love who were killed in very drastic ways. So they
Yeah.
like it lends itself to a franchisable rule setup, but I would say that the
Thank
reason
you.
that people have come back to it to make it into a franchise and look at those kind of like, oh, we can make the rules already is because of the nostalgia squeezing that it's doing. And I think a lot of new things that are going to get sequels and soft reboots and stuff like that is the nostalgia squeeze kind of thing.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
And
So,
that can't be blamed on you, Paul, because it's the last of my childhood and money that they're trying to get. They're coming for you next.
oh,
There's a small age gap between us, but they'll soon be done with my people.
yeah, I'm
They're
full.
coming for yours next.
I'm fully expecting like ET and stuff like that to be remade and stuff like that, kind of thing. So, read like ET 2 or that kind of stuff. I just saw,
E.T., he's back.
yeah, and he phoned friends.
I'll be
Um,
right with you.
I saw that Annihilation's getting a lot of love. I do slightly agree that you could like if you made a trilogy of the Annihilation books and stuff like that from the beginning, you could have possibly made a better Annihilation movie that we got.
Yeah.
Because the Annihilation movie we got was like awful, um, and I think that because I think Annihilation was definitely a pushing of the boat into the water kind of thing, and they spent a lot of money on trying to make it like as weird and kind of like as possible. But I think that they because they didn't plan it out to be a trilogy, that they ruined it. Kind of thing. That's my opinion. I think our point with
Think you're
certain
probably
things
the
is
money.
one of the biggest problems with franchises is if they were like with bad franchises is if they weren't planned to be a franchise at the start, or they weren't planned to be a trilogy or anything like that. Um, then you kind of or sequel or anything like that, you can end
Yeah,
up just
can you
spoiling.
imagine that when Ghostbusters was coming out first, they thought, "Hey, this thing is a surefire hit. We're already making a second movie." No, they were thinking, we're making the best movie we can." And then when it was released and they realized, "Hey, we have a phenomenon on our hands," a sequel was inevitable. Similar to what did that happen to recently? Oh yeah, the Joker.
Yeah,
Joker. We all watched it and thought, well, that's good. They
yeah.
won't be making another one of those, will they? And then the dump truck with the money showed up and they're making another one.
That's yeah. Ugh.
Could be great. It's a jukebox musical, apparently, Paul. I don't know. I don't know.
We'll see.
We'll
I just also seen in the chat that a lot of people are like, I'm going to say a lot of people, Brew, you've mostly been picking out kind of horror franchises and stuff like that.
good point.
Horror franchises do lend themselves to kind of repeat because essentially, instead of having a one hero person, you have a one villain that you kind of spread out. I will say that there are certain franchises that have ruined the original series or original kind of idea. Saw being one of them, it was a lot more of a psychological kind of horror kind of thing, trapped in one room, having to solve this puzzle kind of thing. But now it's become a lot more kind of a body horror thing. I would also say that Friday the 13th also suffered from that in the sense that the first movie doesn't even have Michael Myers in it. Or not Michael Myers,
Ye-
Jason Voorhees.
Jason.
Yeah, it doesn't
Yeah.
have like until the very end. It doesn't have the hockey mask. It doesn't have anything like that. It's literally the quintessential campfire horror story that um spreads throughout the camp, and then turns out that the murderer is just a mundane person who's gone mental, kind of thing. Rather than, yeah, he's unkillable. Halloween has also now recently got into that, got into the weirder side of kind of like let's bring it back,
I love our
nostalgia
Halloween
squeezing,
graphic.
and the
Our Halloween
horrible.
graphic is one of my favorite. Yeah, just I'm so glad you picked Brian's comment because I had it on my list to just go back and mention. Horror is a different story when it comes to franchises, I think, and it's a weird thing to say, but I think, like you say, because it's quite often about the villain, the evil, the terror, the bad, the antagonist. It's much more franchisable in that way. It's like reverse James Bond.
Yeah,
Um, and with that said, I'm completely with you that people ruin their own franchises unnecessarily quite often in horror. Because if you do well, I think you can make there are a lot of great horror franchises that then just lose the care and attention needed to keep them great.
yeah, yeah. Like you lose the attention of kind of thing. You're if you've built out a story that needs a sequel or needs a trilogy and stuff like that, you're trying to tell the story. If you build out an original thing and then add a sequel to it, you're doing it to recapture what you did in the first one. Like your goals are different. It's kind of like, ooh, people like that. They really like that. Let's redo it in a certain like Joker 2. We've always said that the DC side of things has always been good at experimentation, bringing out these
Mm.
little nice chunks of kind of really nice little movies and stuff like that of Joker and the Batman and stuff like that. The second that they started trying to go, we can make more money out of this, or we can definitely do a sequel or next in the line kind of thing. Um, their change of the view has changed. Like they wanted to tell the story of the Joker, but not within the kind of confines of the comic book movie. They just wanted to show a person
Yeah.
having like eventually having a really bad day and then becoming like the Joker. Um, they wanted to avoid Batman. They don't mention the fact that like they don't really mention the fact that he's in Gotham as well. They don't
Mm.
mention any kind of overly connection into a universe thing. Batman does the same in the sense that it just focuses on the story around him and stuff and the more detective side of things. Though he is an idiot in that one as well. Now that they've decided to make the next Batman and also the Penguin spin-off and everything like that, it's kind of like your action is that you saw the Penguin, you saw how many people liked Colin Farrell as the Penguin, so let's now start making the uh, the Penguin because it makes money. I think
Yeah.
that's the biggest case.
And
So
I gotta say kudos to the chat. You've all been amazing. Thank you so much for everything. And Nick, you've nailed it with what DC should have done. And I think we've mentioned something, not verbatim those exact words, but that's very much been a theme of some of what we've said before. They shouldn't have tried to just jump to the finish when the MCU had put in 15 years work. Yet DC had the animated movies to draw from, and then they completely missed the open goal on that. But Paul, again, me with the shifting of gears, I want to put this one out. Everybody in chat, get your fingers near your keyboard or thumbs near your thumb keyboard. I'm going to say something controversial, and that is the French way of saying controversial. No, it's not. Um, Jurassic Park should have been one movie. There should not have been any other Jurassic Park movies. Come at me, bro. Come at me.
okay, I will defend only the next two. I will not defend. I will not defend further. I will not defend further, sir. I will not defend further. Um,
You will say trilogy justified, but changing it from park to world not.
yeah, I will say that where we had essentially you have like uh uh instead of having like a hero or a group or a villain, they had an island. And I know
Hmm.
before the technical people, the Jurassic Tech people start coming in and be just like, well, the second one is on another island. Yeah, we get that.
Yes.
Um, yeah, I know. Jurassic Park 1, 2, and 3 are kind of like, I say that the island, the dinosaur kind of island, I guess, is more of the kind of like character towards that. When they started kind of going a little bit more crazier on kind of like Dominion and part like worlds and stuff like that. It really kind of took away from. It's kind of one of those things where it's just like even Jurassic Park 2 and 3 like left the idea of making a park, kind of thing, and then we went back to the park idea. Like like literally the first one is the park. The second one is like people are capturing dinosaurs and bringing them to like a zoo, and then the third one is kind of kid lost uh, in the dinosaur island, kind of thing. So it's just one of these weird kind of that we went back to a park when we were just like, who in the like? There's already jokes about the insurance liability. There's like the SNL skit about the courtroom drama thing of like it's just like
Yep.
you signed the papers, sir, kind of thing of like lost if you lose or damage your property. It's like my friends are not property and not like lost. They're dead because you're done,
They were eaten.
yeah, kind of thing. It's like why did we go back to that idea? And then why did we go further and kind of going, what the interesting part of Jurassic Park is? It's not the dinosaurs. It's the genetic manipulation. That's more the interesting thing that we should definitely go into. Let's make this a eugenics like
Yeah.
movie more with dinosaurs. Is that a good idea? It's like, yeah, no.
Super serum our dinosaurs so we can come up with ever more increasingly ridiculous, all pig Latin sounding Indominus Ultra Reximus Maximus Prime. I was going to pick. I just Lisa, Nick, I'm going to let you go on this. I see that you're saying that three is your favorite. Four, two, like you're into. At least none of you said you like Dominion. Um, because it means something to you both. I'm not going to go both barrels. But there was a moment when I saw that all said that you were almost stricken off my respect list. I'm only kidding. I'm only kidding. But my big beef is Jurassic Park is another. It's a fantastic film.
Hmm.
Like it's truly landmark piece of cinema. And you know who doesn't think about it that way anymore? Anyone.
Yeah.
Because Jurassic, everything else. Life finds a way. Sometimes it finds a way into the back of a convertible being chased by a dinosaur. Sometimes it finds itself making parks when parks are a bad idea, as you've obviously pointed out, Paul, which is ridiculous. Then it does completely get into eugenics. Like it's just crazy. There's going to be more. Scarlett Johansson is apparently going to be taking over the unenviable task of now being the face of the next set of Jurassic cash-ins, which is a shame. Really like her, fair play. I hope it buys a nice house, but don't expect to be recapturing the magic of the first movie because it won't be recaptured, folks. Make more dinosaur movies. By all means, Jurassic Park proved the technology was there. Make more dinosaur movies. Don't just be like, and by the way, there was a second island. Okay. And by the way, after the second island, we're just going to make loads of stuff up just because we want more movies. Yeah, it completely pisses me off. I think Brian, you were the only other one out there to agree, saying, yeah, Jurassic Park should have been left alone or something to that effect. Agreed on Jurassic Park. Thank you. To everyone else, I completely understand I'm in the minority here because everybody enjoys the sequels.
We only no, we only enjoy we enjoy the sequels of the first two sequels. Nothing else after that. I'm not
You're
like
sticking defending the trilogy. Gotcha.
I will defend I will loosely defend the trilogy. If you were just like I'm waving the magic wand and the only Jurassic Park we're getting is literally the first one, I'd be just like cool, like that's fine. Like there's been too much damage to the original series, like to the original trilogy, that I would definitely
And
prefer that.
I can see people getting in here with Jurassic Earth, Jurassic Universe, Predator goes to Jurassic Park. I'd like to say it's going to be Jurassic 2 Dinosaur Boogaloo. That's where we're going to move next. It's going to be Disco Dinosaur.
I want Star Park, where they merge
Ooh,
Jurassic Park with Star Trek, and it's essentially that dinosaurs have become the dominant species on Earth, and they've then created the Federation, and like Kirk is like a Kirk is a T Rex, and
people
Spock
on
is like a
Planet of the Apes here,
Triceratops.
is it going to be like Federation of the Planet of the Dinosaur Apes?
No, it's
Um,
still everything hasn't changed except for the humans have now been replaced with dinosaurs. That's it.
no.
Yeah, literally it.
There was a
Spock.
short while in the 90s where they tried to do that and had like dinosaur cops and Whoopi Goldberg kind of
Yeah,
in it with talking
yeah.
dinosaurs.
Do cattle dinosaurs and Cadillacs.
That's yeah,
That's a
good
great
arcade machine.
that's a
Yeah.
great TV show as well, or
Cool.
cartoon show.
Was it a cartoon? Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember playing the arcade game.
So to kind of bring it full circle, we are a fan of franchises. We definitely don't think that everything should be turned into a franchise. You're like franchises have their problems. They also have their pluses, their positives and stuff like
Advantages.
that. Yeah, kind of thing. But they also they bring such difficulty to the table in certain specs. If you don't plan to make a franchise at the start, then you're already going to face a lot of problems. Some of the best franchises, like some of the best perceived franchises, are more the fact is that we remember the newer ones rather than the older ones, and we were lost so much from the old ones because of that. Um, and also then you stifle the original story and everything like that. So it's a big problem with franchises. Also today, because franchises have become money makers and brands themselves, studios love to throw them around as much as possible. Kind of thing, which stifles overly other independent movies that would have gotten better chances if we didn't decide to make Jaws 6, The Revenge of Jaws' Son, which I think is actually like 3 or 4, or Meg 2.
Oh gosh. I'm still going to watch it. I'm sorry. There's the Meg 2 thing. I know at some point I'm going to watch it. I'll have a moment of weakness and I will be like, okay, my brain needs a break right now.
Yeah, I definitely get that. But yeah, so thanks very much. Let us know down some of your favorite franchises and some of the favorite original stories that have been ruined by franchising it, kind of thing. Like, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Thanks for watching. If there's which is we'll be back next Thursday. Anything else that you want to add, Patrick?
No, I just want to say thanks for all the engagement. And those of you watching in the future, we love you too. Thank you very much for giving up your time and spending it with us. It's very, very special. Love you all. And also go watch First Blood and never call it Rambo.
Yeah. Rambo 1. The Revenge of Rambo 2.
Sorry. I'm not disposed to laughing to mics. Okay, go for it.
All right, guys. See you later. Thanks very much. Bye bye.
Bye bye.